Welcome to the Sip and Chat. This is Love Marlene of Love Marlene 411. I'm Marlene, your host for this podcast. And I have to say to all of you loved ones, I appreciate every single one of you for always your support and watching and viewing and all of those things. So, myself and my co host, Miss Nexy, we cover topics every single week that are very important that have to do with, elevation and personal growth and healing from the wounds of the past and the things that sometimes people say or the things that people do. It truly does disturb us. And I want for us to understand that we don't have to stay in that position. We don't have to stay hurt. We don't have to stay sad. We can grow. We can have conversations, we can work on ourselves, and we can remove certain individuals from our life. I think that that's a very important thing. Hey, Miss Nexy, how are you doing? It keeps kicking you out. Okay, keep on trying. I can put the link in again. And how's everybody doing? Welcome to the Sip and Chat. And I'll wait for my co host to ask me what I'm sipping on. But what are you sipping on this Thursday? Is it your weekend? Has your weekend started? Or is your weekend starting tomorrow? Or is your weekend starting Saturday? Let me know in the comment section. Or if you're watching in the replay, let me know all of those things. Hi, Miss Betty. How are you doing? Welcome. Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to the Sip and Chat. What are you guys sipping on today? What's your drink of choice? Today, I just have some fruit flavored water. Just have some water with lots of ice in it and some strawberries. And that's about it. That's what I'm sipping on today. Hey, Filmed by P. Welcome. Or Pay. I apologize if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Hey, Kristen, how are you doing? Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. How are you guys doing? I definitely appreciate it. So, while I'm waiting on my co host, Miss Nexy, let me ask you guys, what are you sipping on? What is your drink of choice today? Like I said, I'm just having some flavored water. I just put some um, strawberries. I bought some strawberries from Aldi and I have those in my water with some blueberries. I'm trying to do better with my health. You guys know that I'm trying to kick this soda habit. It's so hard for me. I love soda so much. I know it's a very unhealthy thing. I know soda is very unhealthy, but I like it so much. I've given up a lot of toxic things, but I'm trying my best to work on this soda addiction that I have. It's the sugar, I think, that brings me back. But I'm having my flavored water today. I'm kind of proud of myself. Hey, Boss Life Online, how are you doing? Welcome in. So while we wait for my co-host, Miss Nexy, we're going to I'm going to start off. Kristen says you're not ready to give up soda. I know, but I know it's not good for my teeth. It's not good for my skin. And I'm trying to, have some health goals, fitness goals. And I know I can't get there drinking soda. Soda. So I'm trying to kick another bad habit. Maybe if I don't kick it, at least I can stop drinking 3 sodas a day. I know that's what I do on a regular basis. I drink 3 sodas a day. Hey, Miss Tamika, how are you doing? Welcome. Happy Thursday. How are you doing? I see my co host backstage. Let's welcome Miss Nexy to the Sip and Chat.
You know why I couldn't get on? Hi, everybody. Hello, Miss Marine. Well,
Hello.
YouTube was updating. So
Oh,
I got out and then I was like, okay, let me restart all over. So I got out of the app and then I went back in, and then it kept on like um, not allowing me, and then it stopped me, and it says is installing. So I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh,
So it was
okay.
updating, and I was over here trying blaming StreamYard. What? I had to blame someone, and it's never me, of course, because I'm perfect.
Oh, this is a you just walked right into today's topic. Thank you so
Exactly.
much.
I knew it. I knew it. I did this. I left it. I got that
Yeah.
up on me. Go ahead.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Yeah. But
Shoot me.
before we get into the topic, Miss Nexy, I gotta ask you, Miss Nexa, what are you sipping on?
You know me, Marlene, creature
Uh,
of habit. I'm having my
mhm.
afternoon coffee. And I need it today because I slept like
Mhm.
18 hours, I think. I'm sorry. I got up early and I said a few minutes. I'm just gonna go back to sleep because my little guy wasn't awake. I was like, I'm not gonna wake him up. I'm just gonna let him rest. It was 7:30 a.m. I had
Mhm.
the AC on. I make my
Mhm.
coffee, take a sip, and I lay down. Okay, got up at 1:30. Oh my God! Without
Wow.
having, I'm a
Wow.
bad mother. Yes, yes, I am. I'm
No,
just
you
kidding.
aren't. It's okay to take your rest sometimes, Miss Nexty. I'm glad you got
Yeah,
some
I had
rest.
already left them breakfast too. By the way, he had already had his breakfast just to take it to his room if he wanted. But I think that is what got me relaxed, and yeah, I blacked out. I was gone. Oh my God!
It's good to have
But
those.
anyway,
It's good to have
yes,
those times. Yeah. So
lazy days. But
yeah.
yes, my coffee and
Mm,
water because I'm a
okay.
good girl.
And
I'm not
see, and
like
I'm
the
glad I
Marlenes of the world.
have. See, but excuse me. Um, see me. I'm like Kristen. Kristen says she's not ready to give up soda because I'm telling you, I was in the store, and you know how you have the conversation in your head. You know you're good. You know what your goal is, okay? And I know the pressure, like the sweat was like beating up on my forehead. I was like, don't look at the Coca Cola, and I was like,
The withdrawals were kicking in.
yes. And I was like, in that immediate moment, I was like, I'm so thirsty. I'm so thirsty.
And you have a bottle of water in your hands, right? I'm so
Yeah, I have
thirsty.
water, but I was like, who wants this?
You know what? You guys are gonna think me weird. I don't really like soda. Yes, I know. I know. The
Sorry,
bubble
guys.
bubbles.
You guys, I'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, it's gonna be a sip and only, no chat with her. It will be just a sip.
Yep, I got to kick her off my chat. Anybody who doesn't drink soda is not welcome over here.
So I really don't like soda. I can take a sip
Mhm.
out of the kiddos, or if whenever
Mhm.
somebody offers, but I don't really like soda. I
Mhm.
like the seltzer thing out of it. So seltzer waters I like because I like the bubbly, but I don't like the taste of soda because I don't like regular sugar.
Because
I
she
know
doesn't
it's
like
weird.
sugar because she's so healthy.
No, no, no. Words in my mouth. Putting what this topic is perfect today. Let's do this. Let's do this. I'm ready. I'm in my corner already, just kicking.
You're ready? You already
Ooh,
got on your
ooh.
gloves?
I'm stretching. Oh, I got him on. I've been had him on.
You've been stretching. Okay,
Oh
I'm
no, I
nice and
started right
limber.
now.
I'm
Cracking
ready.
my neck, cracking my neck, cracking my knuckles. Let's do this.
Okay, so let me introduce the topic today. This week's topic is always making excuses for their behavior. And I can say that I think everybody knows people who always make an excuse for why they do what they do or why they continue to do what they do. I can't speak for everybody, but I know several people, and I know that I used to be one of them, but it wasn't until I wanted to make some changes in my life I think you have to get tired of the same thing, or you will continue to have,
Results.
yeah.
You know, and again, for yourself, it's a lot easier to do that because who likes to be criticized, right?
Hmm.
You don't like people criticizing you. You don't, sometimes even healthy feedback, you don't appreciate it because you're not there. Your space is not allowing you to allow that to enter your bubble of perfection that you think you are. That's not me though, because I know I am perfect. But you don't allow. So when people try to tell you pretty much, your behavior sometimes, the way you answer back sometimes, the way you look at people, the certain little things that you do because it's criticism, and even though it's actually something that you can benefit from because you know they're right, but because you don't want that type of criticism coming your way, what you do is make excuses. This is who I am. I've always been like this. Why am I going to change for you? If you don't like it, then you don't have to be around me, right? So you shift it over to them because they're hitting you exactly in the core of why you behave the way that you are because of the massive ego.
Yeah, actually, who likes for somebody to check them? And I don't know
Nobody.
anybody who's like, "Oh, thank you so much for telling me how disturbing my behavior is."
Wait. Okay, let's correct that. Not until you have a healthy mind and you have worked on yourself. If you haven't done that, then yes, no, 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 I'm perfect.
Yep. Yep. You keep continuing in on that negative behavior. So we're going to start off by talking about, different people in our life that have that sort of making excuses for their behavior. And we're going to start off with one that I think just about everybody has, people like that, your friends, quote unquote, you know,
Mm,
or should I say so-called friends.
there you
Friends.
go. That's a better word. So-called friends.
Yeah. So, people use the term friend so loosely. They call
Hmm.
everybody their friend, but a friend is somebody that I know I can say because you and I were friends, and I have some friends here on this app like Geo and like in real time that I've met here from social media. But I mean, people that in real life, and they they just don't do the right thing. They just don't treat you the way that you deserve to be treated. And there's always an excuse for their behavior, like, oh, I'm tired. Um, I just lost my job, or I just went through a breakup. It's always something for the reason why they act the way they act, instead of just owning that they're an adult. They make poor choices, and the list goes on and on. But that's just the way it goes.
Hmm.
We have to have people in our life that will grow with us, and unfortunately sometimes we have to outgrow people because they will not change. Their behavior is negative, and I can say that the people that you choose to be friends with, if they have very bad and poor behavior and they like to stay stuck in that drama, that foolishness, that lie, the facade, no accountability, then you start to think that it's okay for you to not experience personal growth. um, I know having people in my life that were my quote unquote friends, and then when I actually needed them, they were never there for me like I needed them to be there for me, but they always expected for me to be there for them. And it was always an excuse for their behavior. They're tired, or they can't afford it, or whatever it is, but it's one of those things that they have already agreed to do it. You didn't ask them, oh, yeah, I'll be there. And then when it happened, oh, Oh, I should have
Mm-hmm.
called you and told you I couldn't make it, but you have to understand. You know how it is. I don't know how it is because if somebody's my friend and I can't make it, at least I would give them a
You
call and
know,
say I can't make it.
I don't know if I lost you, Miss Marlene. I can't hear
Oh,
you, and I don't know if you can hear me.
I'm,
Oh yeah, I think you can because I can see my
I,
little
yeah,
avatar moving.
yeah. Mm-hmm. I can hear you.
You've been going in and out, so certain portions of your I couldn't hear, but you come back and then you go out again. Okay,
Oh,
good.
really?
No, I'm saying
Okay.
we couldn't hear you like part of it because it goes out and then you come back. But yes, the so-called friends. The one thing, my dad always taught us since we were younger, and my older sisters have always followed this, is that, friends are people you choose to be in your life. So for me, if I befriend someone and become acquainted, and if I see that, and I've always been like this, probably more so, like more in tune with the things that to how to pick up certain things that I don't like earlier in that relationship, rather than friends are people you choose to be in your life, with the exception of family, you have no choice there. But with friends, I've always had that. And if I don't like a certain behavior, or if they do something that, doesn't resonate with me, which is why, I've had, and I think I've shared this with you, I have 3 best friends now. And I've had them for my 2 best friends have been from 20 plus years more, like almost 30 years of friendship. And I have a brand new best friend that, we've started a great friendship, and I consider her my best friend. But people like that I choose because they're people that are going to help me grow, right? Are going to help me realize if I'm doing something wrong, they're going to call it out. They're going to say, hey, they're going to hold me accountable. That's what a friend does. It protects you, but it holds you accountable at the same time. It's supposed to be that way. At least that's what friendship means to me. If I
Mm-hmm.
see that you're doing something wrong, I bring it up to you and say, hey, you know what? Not in a bad way, criticizing way, but say, hey, you know what? I don't think that was right. Or maybe if you try this other way, or maybe if next time you don't do that, you don't act like this. That's what friends are for. On family members, we have no choice. We have to deal with them day in, day out because, again, they're family, whether we like it
Mm-hmm.
or not. They have to be in our lives.
Yeah.
But
You can't just
friends,
hit a delete button.
exact. Oh, I've been wanting to use that. I'll delete on them. I've tried it in my computer, but they don't go away. No, um, a lot of times we deal with certain type of so-called friends, as you say, Marlene, because we're not well mentally. We're not there yet, right? So we deal with those people for longer than necessary because we're not secure. We're not secure on ourselves, on our feelings, on our likes, on our dislikes. So we allow it to progress for longer than they deserve to be in our lives. Because again, I said that word and I'm not using it loosely, deserves to be in my life. That's something I had to learn. I deserve this. I deserve that. And everything that the people, when they come into, they have to be, deserving of your friendship because you're a good friend. I always hold myself accountable. I always gauge myself when it comes to those things. But again, as working on myself has brought me up to this point, and I've been like this again for 20 plus years.
Wow.
Go ahead,
That's
Marlene.
that's the thing that is like phenomenal about friendship is that you can start off being a certain way in a friendship, but you shouldn't stay that way. You should have people
Mm-hmm.
in your life that they're elevating and that you could probably be not in a very good space, but then you start growing because you can't help it. when you're around people who are elevating and growing and maturing and like not doing the things that are wrong, you can't help but to become like the people that you associate with. And that's why I can say, like, I'm glad that I have friends that will be like, I love you, but you're a big old dummy. Why did you do that?
Why did you open your purse to that one? Yep.
Yep. And that's why
Those are
we're
the good
best
friends.
friends. Yeah, those are the good friends because they'll tell you when you act stupid, but they won't do it around anybody else. They'll talk to you like one on one, like, hey,
Thank you.
I just wanted to say something. What are you doing, you idiot?
Oh, yeah, and that's exact. Oh my god, I almost spilled out my coffee.
It's like, and I mean that with all the love in my heart.
Again, I if I'm calling you my best friend, it's because you are a sister to me, right?
Mhm.
I don't have any reservations with my sisters when it comes to something that I have to call out on them, and they don't have any with me when they have to call me out on something that I'm doing wrong, or that I, been repeatedly told about, and they're already at the wit's end and say, hey, this is the fourth time we tell you, stop giving them money. No, but so if I don't have those reservations with my sisters, then I tell them everything, and I call them out, and I sometimes, of course, most of the time, I praise, right? And I'm grateful. So that's the way I'm going to be with my best friends, because, you're an extension of my sisters.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's super important. And we have Flurg in the chat. Hey, Flurg.
Hi, Flurg.
Yes. So, okay. So that's one category that I wanted to talk about was friendship. Now I want to move into another category of people who make excuses for their behavior, and that is your coworkers, okay? Your workmates, bosses, managers, higher up CEOs, whoever they are, and people that you
Whatever the
work,
shoe fits.
yeah, wherever the shoe fits. When it comes to people, I try my best to keep my work home life separate. I try not to combine them, but sometimes one will slip in between the cracks because they're just such a good person. But I just try my best to not combine the two because it's just too much drama when somebody on the job knows your personal business, and then if there's a falling out or an issue, you don't feel like you have to choose between friendship and work.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I've said this to you before, Marlene. I'm a very private person. Work is work, home is home. I have a lot of, associates at work. I have developed, I can say a friendship with a few people, and we go out to lunch, out to dinner, whatever. But we talk about work. Sometimes we talk about, the next place we want to go eat. We discuss things like that, but I don't bring my personal life into it, because,
Mhm.
again, I like that to stay private. And it's a form of respect that you have to have for the other person too, because if you open up that door, then you're allowing them to let you know about their personal life and their dramas and
Mhm.
everything. And I think home drama and work drama are two separate things, because out of, drama from work, you are done with the minute you clock out, right? Drama at home
Mhm.
stays with you because that's where you live, that's where you reside, that's where you stay all the time. So I try to keep the two separate, because, again, like you said, I don't want to have to pick, even though on my part it wouldn't be like that. But I wouldn't want anybody else to have to pick between staying at the job because they already told me something and they feel weird about it. And I'm not saying that I'm going to divulge that, I'm just saying that they probably do feel so. I don't open those doors so that people don't have to enter. They don't have a way to enter into telling me their personal life. I can ask how the kiddos are, yes, and that's as much as I ask. But or how your family's doing, and that's it. As far as me, talking about my personal life or intimate life, I really don't. I don't do that. I keep separate from workplace or places that I volunteer to. Like everything is separate. It's the best way to do it, at least for me.
Yeah, I find it to be the best way. Like I used to before be like, going back and forth. And then I found like this is too stressful because they know too much. So then they start throwing it in your face and telling other people. And it's just like, no, we can't do this anymore. So I promised myself the next, whatever I got involved with moving forward, I was never going to do that because when people are on the job, I it drives me crazy that the people who are in management, they become friends, and they allow their friendship to supersede the work. So they allow their friend to do whatever, come in late, do whatever they want, be lax, don't do the job, leave early, do all these things, whereas everybody else has to stay on task and pull their weight, and you're like,
Hmm.
what is going on?
Again, they're using the excuse of friendship to excuse their behavior, right?
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that though, but it happens all the time that in management hires their friends and they're hanging out, they're going to the movies, they're going, but it's just like, I understand that you need time with your friends, but it shouldn't overlap you're making money. It's just not a good combination. I don't think it goes well. I don't
No,
think it.
it doesn't. Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. It. I don't know. It's like it clouds their senses, and again, they excuse. Oh, that's my friend, and they excuse that behavior in the name of friendship, right? So and they know that their friends are being late, they know that their friends are taking advantage of their kindness and whatever, but they continue to excuse it, and sometimes promoting within the friendship group, because there's always a little cluster, right? And they keep promoting people that probably don't deserve to be in that position. There's probably three or four people more qualified than that person, but in the name of friendship, the promotions go on. And and I always say, when I see people like that, I'm always thinking, this is not gonna end well, this is not gonna end well. and and 9 out of 10 times I've been proven right. The so-called friends, once they get higher up, they start talking about that other person. They're not hanging around with them so much. Now this one is talking about that one, saying how thanks to her or him, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, if it
things
wasn't
don't
for
go
me,
well.
they wouldn't
So,
be here. Yeah.
which is why, exactly, and it's why I learned, Marlene, the same way you learned. I learned um, very early on when I started working on how much I could tell people. I lost a job in a raise that I had earned because someone asked me, and I told her, yeah, he upped my raise this much, even though I was doing a lot more than this other. I mean, working at work, I was in charge of more than this other person. But because I said that, she went up to the boss and said that I had said that, and why didn't she get the same amount I did? And
Wow.
so it made things really weird. So I had to quit that job.
Wow.
So
I'm
I
so.
learned from that experience, because I really liked that place. I learned that you keep everything, close to your vest, because you don't want people to, especially when it comes to work relations, you just keep them at arm's length. Discuss things about work, try to be cordial and nice and everything, but don't be as nice as they're gonna step all over you.
Yeah, because
Kind of nice.
exactly, because they're going to take advantage of you. And you know that goes right into another relationship in our life where people will take advantage of us, and they will make excuses for their behaviors. And everybody, I believe, has this, and that's relatives. We could stay on this topic for probably 2 or 3 more hours, talking about relatives that make excuses for their behaviors. It could be your parents, siblings, spouse. No, well, I'm gonna save the your romantic interest for after this. But let's just talk about just our relatives, the ones that same blood running through your veins. I found that like your siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, it's like they feel like they can do whatever they want, and you should just accept it. And they'll say, well, the way I am. And just because a person has had poor, toxic, negative, drama filled behavior all along doesn't mean that we need to continue to put up with it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And um, again, that goes not just for parents, grandparents, that goes for children too, Marlene.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I have to go there. Um, you know, I see, and this is the one thing that I have always tried to, make sure that I hold them accountable for there's certain behaviors, right? I know that sometimes we're not in a good mood or in a good place, and as humans, we go through those ups and downs, and we don't want to maybe say something to our kiddos or whatever. But I have tried to sometimes when words don't work, I do it by action. You know, if you say something and they are said, "I'll do it later." Okay, fine, right? So whenever they need something, I hold it in, and then they need something really bad. I said, "I do it later." But mom, I need it right now, and I'm like, "But yeah, but I'll do it later." They're looking at me like, I go, "How does it feel? Remember when I asked you this and this and that? I needed it done right then and there. You said later." I go, "How does that make you feel?" "Oh my God, mom, that was so mean."
Yeah.
It's a horrible feeling. So action sometimes is required when you're teaching people their type of behavior. And so when I treat people outside of my family members, I always think about my kids because a lot of people behave like that, like, like
Hmm.
kids.
Act like
And
toddlers.
so yeah, my children are adults already, and I still do the same thing. When I ask for something, they give me an attitude. They don't disrespect it, just like, "Okay, I know, mom, I get it." You know how sometimes you can be short like that.
Hmm.
So when they're okay, they come back and they're like, "Oh, mom, what about what do you want? What do you need?" They're like, "Oh, are you okay?" I go, "Why?" "Oh no, because I thought you were upset." I go, "That's the way you answered me 5 seconds ago. So why does it make a big deal
Yeah.
for you?"
Why is it
"Oh, I'm
okay?
sorry, mom." Well, and then, "I'm sorry, mom. I didn't mean to do that. You're right. I'm so sorry, mom." So I
Yeah.
learned to, instead of arguing back and forth, I show you that behavior and see how you feel.
Mm.
Show you. Let me show you how I felt at that particular moment. So, and that's sometimes, like I said, that's how I use with family members and coworkers because I train with my children and I hold them accountable too. My extended family members, you know that, Marlene, I already have them trained. They already know they don't mess with me. If they need something and I can do it for them, I'll be happy to. But for nonsense, no. The only people that I'm always in contact with are my sisters. We have a great sisterhood with those two. My brothers, from time to time, they hardly ever need anything, but if they do, I'm always there because they hardly ever ask me for anything, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so, but I do hold them accountable. Like my brother, the one before me, he had not spoken to me in a while, and he's like, "Oh my God, I haven't seen you in a long time. I go, yeah, the highways, byways, freeways, and streets, they go both ways.
And the telephone.
No, 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 no. But this is it. I haven't seen you in a long time, right? I go,
Oh,
well, you know what I mean? Like, well, the streets, the highways, the byways, they go both ways.
mm-hmm.
You want to come, you can come visit me like I had before. So I don't like to be arguing, so I'd rather show you so you can feel how I felt.
Yep.
Because
I think.
sometimes people don't understand. If you talk to them, they don't really get it until you show
Mhm.
them their behavior.
Yeah, one thing that I had to start doing to some of my relatives is when they were always doing things like, because I've said it many times before here. I work nights. Miss Nexy, you've worked nights. When you work nights, it's a completely different way of existence. You don't
Yes.
operate the same. And people just don't get it. No matter how much you tell them, people are still
We're
calling
not
you at
normal.
yeah, they're calling you at 9 o'clock in the morning, like, and I'm like, hello, and they're like, you're sleeping. I'm like, yeah, I just got off work, and they're like, oh, you're crabby. I was like, you would be too if you got 1 hour of sleep. I was like, call me later. I just hang up on them. So now I've learned that to avoid all of that, the people who do not respect your boundaries, I just turn my phone on sleep mode and
Hmm.
it goes straight to voicemail. So I don't have to worry about answering the phone. I don't feel guilty. And it's one of those things that, not just in dealing with that, but anything, even if you tell them how they make you feel when they don't show up, when they do X, Y, and Z, and they keep doing the same poor, bad behavior, you have to show them a lesson. Sometimes we have to show by your actions. When I found that I needed support in a certain thing at one period of time, and they didn't show up for me when they really needed some support, I didn't show up for them. And it was so hard for me to do that, but I had to show them how it feels to not be supported when you need them. They're like, I really needed you. I said, oh, is that so? I said, I said, how does that feel? There's like, what do you mean? I said, remember when I asked you and I said I really needed you? Well, that's not the same thing. I said, oh, it's not. So when it's for you, it's important, but when it's for me, it's not.
Hmm.
And they just stopped and looked at me. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's I remember you telling me this when and I wish you will go into more details of what you did to make them stop calling you early in the morning.
Go, go ahead, Miss Nexy. You can tell it.
Go ahead. No, I want you to tell them what you did so they can stop. What time did you call them?
Okay. 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 I'll tell. Okay,
Tell it,
everybody. Story time.
and
So
I'm gonna tell you what I did.
okay, so like I said, I was working nights, and I would always tell them, like, I get off of work at 7:30 in the morning. By the time I get home, have some breakfast, take a shower, lay down, it's like about 8:30, and by the time I fall asleep, it's probably like 9 in the morning. So that's when everybody always wants to call you, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning, and no matter how many times I say I sleep, call me around 4 p.m. and they still do not respect your boundaries. So to teach them a lesson, I waited, and I remember one night I was like, yeah, I was feeling pretty froggy. I said, you know what? I said 3 a.m. perfect timing. And I was like, I was like, first call, I was like, call my brother. He's like, what? Are you okay? Is everything all right? I was like, why are you calling? I was like, I was just calling to see what's up. I was like, how you doing? He's like, what? How am I doing? It's like, why are you calling me at three? I was like, I said, how does that feel when you're sleeping to get woken up? Hmm. Yeah. I think, oh yeah, I know how that feels. Yeah. Okay, think about that the next time. And then I hung up the phone, and I proceeded to call everybody on my list, my sister. I was like, everybody got it that day. And they was like, what's wrong with her? She called you too? Yeah, she called me. And it taught them a lesson. Like people don't get it sometimes until it happens to them.
Yeah, exactly. And my sisters, they're back home, and there's routines, right, that you follow. And so, in the morning at 7 a.m., my sister gets up super early because she likes to put breakfast for, her husband and her kiddos before they go to their work or school or whatever. So she gets up early and starts cooking and whatever. And then at lunchtime, again, they go to the supermarket in the morning then so they can prepare lunch at 12. She's already working like 11 o'clock on lunch so they can be ready by 12:15. And dinner, the same thing. So I will try calling her after work, right? And she'll be yawning on the phone. And it was like 7 or 8 o'clock my time. Sometimes when I had already gotten out of work, slept for a little bit, and called her. And she'll be yawning, and oh my God, it's so late because she goes to bed early, according to her, like 9 p.m. their time. Back home, we're like an hour ahead, sometimes two. I mean, behind. We're 2 hours behind. They are an hour or two ahead sometimes. So, um, I'm talking, I'm trying to talk to her, and she's like yawning, and answering, very short. And what I'm like, you know what? I'll let you go. We'll talk next time. Yeah. I'll call you. So every time she called me, I was either in the middle of rounds, okay? Because if I'm working the 24-hour shift, if I come in at 7, right, or in the
Mhm.
morning or 8 in the morning, the first thing you do is, you get centralized, see what's going on. We're, especially in the ER, what do we got?
Right.
Where's the chaos today? Where's the chaos this morning? So, I start getting, familiar with what's going on, getting all the 411. And then I'm in the middle of rounds, going from room to room to room to room, and she decides to call. And every time it's the same thing. Or she'll call me at 3 p.m., which again, between 3 and 5, we're doing this rounds. And
Yeah.
so,
It's time.
yes. So I'll be like, right now I can't. And I'm like, I got to let you go. I really can't talk. Well, every time I do that, you're always busy. And then, I want to talk to you and you're always busy. And then I said, okay, fine, fine. I said, you know what? I'll call you right back. So I didn't call her, but I started calling her, at 7:15, 7:30. She'll be like, oh my God. Yeah, well, right now I'm in the middle of fixing breakfast. I go, yeah, but I want to talk to you. We haven't talked in a while. I just want to say hi. Say, yeah, but I'm in the middle. I'm frying some eggs and some beans. I go, yeah, but so how's everything? She'll be like, let me call you back. And then I will call her right as soon as that I knew she was prepping lunch. I will start calling her. And she'll be like, hello. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I'm prepping for the kids' lunch and everything. I'm like, really? Oh, that's good. I wanted to talk to you. She's like, well, I'm, you know, chopping up onions right now. And it's, yeah, but I wanted to talk to you. And she's like, well, can I call you later? I'm like, no, but I just wanted to see how you see. I always call you and you're never available. And then I think after the fourth time that I did that, like 4 days in a row, Marlene, I was on a mission. She
Oh.
started laughing like at dinner time when I called, and she's like, "Oh my God, I just got it." And I said, "What?" She's like, "You're doing to me what I do to you." She's like,
Mhm.
I was like, how is she timing? And she always calls me when I'm doing this. She goes, you're trying to tell me that you have said to me before, I'm in the middle of rounds. So this is what you're talking about. I go, yes, sometimes I can't. So when I call you at 9, I go, try to keep up.
Exactly.
Exactly. She's the one that raised me. She's like a mom to me, but they don't understand. So when you give it back to them, even if it's sometimes annoying for you to continue to do certain things, you have to, because some people, when you talk, all they hear is something coming out of your mouth, words, but they'll go
Mhm.
back and do it again. Oh, I forgot. How many times do we forget certain things? How many
Right.
lessons in life have we forgotten, Marlene? I know I have many lessons that I haven't forgotten one.
Yeah.
Even if I put it in the back of my head, I burn myself again. I'm like, oh, I remember that time that I did the same thing. You know what I mean? So Sometimes words are just that. People don't take them too seriously, and if they do, they forget. But if you teach them exactly how you feel, I think it makes
Yep.
more of an impact, and it
I
will
think
get stuck to them.
I I always say that if somebody can't feel the pain, they don't understand the pain. So for me,
Yes.
until I showed them, like when I say I'm sleeping, and then when they were sleeping and I woke them up, I was like, how does that feel? How does it feel to get woken up when you're sleeping? And there's like, okay, 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 okay. I get it. I'm not gonna call you. I was like, and they've been very good ever since. Like and they'll text me before too. They're like, is it okay for me to call you now? I was like, very good, bravo.
Exactly. And again, we because before I will say, you know what? Well, she's busy with the kids, and probably this is the only time she has. Or, I've told her before, but maybe she forgot, right? Those excuses. Or I told, my other sister this, but maybe you continue to make those excuses that you don't allow yourself or others sometimes around you because they are your family members. And you do the same thing with the kiddos. So
Mhm.
until you get to the point where you can say, wait a minute, everybody is supposed to be held accountable, not just certain people, because that's hypocritical. I'm not allowing this person this behavior that I don't like, but this other one is doing it and I'm okay with it, or I continue to make excuses for that behavior. No. So, you know, my kid, I've always been very blunt and very open with my kiddos. I don't cushion their falls. I try to pick them up if they do, right? I try to talk to them and say, hey, if you go that way, you may fall, right? So be aware. So sorry about that. Be aware that, by choosing to do that, you may, hit yourself somewhere where you may hurt. But if they do it, I'm not going to go there and fix it for them. I'm going to allow them to fall and then pick them up, help them get up, not pick them up, help them get up. And then
Mhm.
tell them this is why this happens. A lot of times, as parents, we forget that they are adults as they grow up. And they are like you and me, two adults, grown ups. They're not babies anymore.
But
So
there
it
are
takes
but
a
there are but there
little
are little
bit.
snookies.
It takes a little bit to kick in, because you still see that little 4-year-old that was holding your hand. Still see that little 5-year-old that was asking the why questions every 5 seconds, and every time you answer it will be another why. So you see that little person, but in reality that's not it. That person is a grown woman or a grown man, and they're doing grown up things that you don't like. So you have to make them aware and hold them accountable. And I do just that. I have already, you know, center myself in that, hey, they are their own person, their own entity. I'm their mom, yes, but they behave with me like their own self. They're grown up people. So I treat them just like that.
Exactly. And the thing about it is that um how can I say it? Because I've been on the other side of that. Because I don't have grown children, but I have received that from my parents when you're on that side because the issue becomes when a parent has enabled you for so long and then they get sick of it and then cut you off and you're like what the heck is going on? What do you mean you're not doing that anymore? Like what? Huh? What? But that's what it is. And we have to, as children and as parents, we have to set some reasonable like expectations for, your children. You have to set reasonable expectations for your siblings and other people that you care about, because the reason for this topic is that it's so important for us to understand that it's a toxic behavior. What they're doing, it's not good. And if we keep allowing for them to do whatever it is that they want, and we keep rationalizing it and excusing it and saying that it's okay, or saying that's the way they are, they will never mature. They'll never grow up. They'll never learn how to do the things that they need to do if you're always going to be the person to bail them out. And I had to learn that with certain people in my life, that if you're always there to catch them every time they fall, when are they ever going to learn to stand up on their own, or to not put themselves in compromising situations? So, yeah, it's all of those things that while you're there and you support and love individuals in your life, you also can't continue to allow them to have this poor behavior, like, making bad judgment with their use of money, or who they've choose to be in a relationship, or quitting a job, or probably getting into like issues because they have a substance problem, whatever that substance could be, alcohol or drugs, or whatever the case may be. It's important to allow our the adults in our life to be just that. Let them be adults and stop sugarcoating them. Sugarcoating it like it's okay when it's not. Hey, James.
Hey, James. Oh my God, I haven't seen James in a while. Speaking of bail money, I'm just kidding. No, but I'm a law-abiding citizen, right? I'm always doing everything by the book. I don't, color outside the lines. And I've always told my children, me. I'm always, following the rules and doing everything the way it's supposed to be done so that I don't get into, trouble. I'll explain to them a lot of times, especially when we're driving together, like, you know, don't have any open containers here. Don't be driving under the influence. My kids don't do that, but I'm saying, right? I was always telling them
Mhm.
since they were little, you have to follow the rules and, turn your blinkers when you're going to make a left or a right. And you stop with the ahead of time. I don't know. And I've always told them, if you ever get into trouble because of your bad behavior, right? Because of
Mhm.
something you did, not the officer that is stopping you, but because they're stopping you for a reason, right? If that happens and you get yourself in the pokey, I said, the last person you're going to call is me. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you, I had already told you that. Or I had already told you, you have to respect the law. So if you're there, I said, lose mommy's number. Because mommy's not going to bail you out. She's not going to, nope, 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 nope. And,
Mhm.
you know, the reason why I tell them that is because, and I mean it, Marlene. And trust me, I have done it. I do not do that. I don't bail them out because they have to learn. If you continuously bail them out of everything, they're gonna become 50-year-olds living with you or relying on you for their support or whatever for everything that they do wrong. And
Yeah.
so I wanted this little one to learn a lesson, you know, and it's people may think it's cruel. I may get, lashback because of what I'm saying right now, but I don't care because I go by the rules. I follow the rules. I follow laws. I follow everything. So if I'm the one giving you that example, why are you not following that? I'm not asking them to not follow a friend or something. I'm asking them to respect, right? And follow rules and the laws. So
Exactly.
I
And
don't,
go ahead, Miss Nexy.
no, I'm saying I don't overprotect them that way. They can count on me for everything else except when they do something like that. I no, that's not going to be my child. If I see so many people that their children do horrific things, essays, unalivings, um, any other number of things, guys or girls, men or women that do these things, and the parents are right behind them, and I'm not saying you shouldn't, right? Don't do it, don't, but I don't know. I don't think I'd be able to do that.
I know
I don't. I know.
my
Actually, I know.
my mom was the same way, Miss Nexy. She always said that. She was like, "You can call me for anything, but do not call me if it says from the correctional facility of whatever. So don't call me." She's like, "Call whoever got you into that trouble." She's like, "Call."
Yes.
You remember back in the day, there was a song like "Call Tyrone." It's just like you call Tyrone, call Melvin, call, but don't call. My mom's name was Gloria. She said, but don't call Gloria.
Here we have, actually, there's a place. It's called Jacoby and Myers or something like that. It's a law firm. So that's what I tell my kids too. You call down. No, that's exactly what I say, because I, again, I am someone that tries to follow rules, and they have been brought up that way. So your mom is right. Whoever got you into whatever it is that you are in, or if you got yourself into this, then you get yourself out of this. But I'm not
Mhm.
gonna put my house, my whatever, just to save you, to help you. Nope, nope. Call me a bad parent. I don't care. I freely received that. Go ahead. Call me a bad parent. I don't care. But I'm not gonna be, allowing that type of behavior, especially not when you have especially me, because we have, you and I, Arlene, have people that we need to protect that cannot protect themselves. So I always
Exactly.
tell them that I have your brother that I need to be here with, to protect and be responsible for the rest of his life because of his special needs. So I
Mhm.
will never put his livelihood in jeopardy to get you out of a jam that you got yourself in.
Mhm. Exactly. And I feel like that's a perfect segue to go into talking about another relationship where people make excuses. And I would say, your boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other, wife, whatever,
Mhm.
whatever your romantic interest. A lot of people, they will make excuses, and we see them all the time in a relationship. Oh, that's my baby. Like, in their eyes, they can do no wrong. They could be doing everything, yelling at you, verbally abusing you, assaulting you, taking your money, doing everything in the book that is horrible behavior, that no way any human being should treat you this way. But a lot of people, just because they want to say they're in a relationship, or just because they want to say, um, I they love me, they stick around and they take that bad behavior.
Hmm. I don't think I have anything to say. How long do we got? I have much to say about that. You know what? We do that, and I am guilty of that. I think I have made so many excuses, and the thing is, when you do that, sometimes you make enemies out of people because they view you as um like they think that they view you as you're at fault for making excuses, or for allowing this person to behave a certain way. And I have a good example. um my husband, well, ex-husband, soon to be, but he had um I don't want to say a short fuse, because that's not what it was, but he had a certain way that he was like, if he didn't like someone, even if the person came and said hi, extend their, hand to greet or whatever, he would just leave them there hanging. And I'd be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, probably didn't see you. Or, that's how he is, but he's really nice overall. um, or ignore you completely. Sometimes, certain family members that I guess he didn't like or didn't approve of, be coming to visit, and he will get up and go to the room and,
Hmm.
leave me there just with the family. And he'll be in the room watching TV or whatever, and not have conversations. Or, if we had them over for dinner, we'll sit there on the table, minimum conversation, and then get up and go back to the room. And people will feel kind of like some kind of way, and I'll be always making excuses. I'm so sorry, he's just tired. He's been working all week, and he wasn't feeling well today or whatever. So I continuously did that for years and didn't call it out, right? Didn't hold him accountable, even to himself. Eventually, I did, and I will call out every bad behavior. But I was the one who was making these excuses. Now, a perfect example I have is one time, very long time ago, when we used to live elsewhere from where we are now. One of his nieces came over. She had just gotten, split it up from her husband, I think it was. And she had a little baby. And she came over, and she was going to stay with us. I said, yeah, of course, come over, stay with us. Don't worry about it. And we'll help you out with the baby. And I'm welcoming her and everything. And then 2, 3 days in, he tells me, how long is she staying? I said, well, I don't know. She's going through this, and she's your niece, right? My niece too, because by marriage, but this
Yeah.
is one of his siblings' kids. And he's like, well, I don't want her here. So you have to
Mhm.
find a way to tell her to get out of here. And I'm like, why don't you? I'm thinking in my head, why don't you tell her that? You're the one who wants her out, not me, right? But he
Yeah, you
wouldn't.
become the bad guy.
Yeah, so he wouldn't. So he's like, he kept on bugging me. You have to tell her to go because you're the one who got her here. I'm like, but this is your family member. This is your niece. And so, long story short, I had to tell her, you know what? I don't think, um, we're gonna be able to keep you here. So, do you think that maybe you can call your mom or your dad? And I'm sorry, but it's just that the house is already. I didn't tell her. He's the one who wants you out. What I said is, at the kids, and we're already very limited in space. And I felt so bad, Marlene, because from that moment on, I became her enemy because she felt like I was kicking her out.
Hmm.
And I didn't have the heart to tell her he's the one that doesn't want you here because she was a single mom. I wanted to keep her protected there, for as long as she wanted. And she just wanted to get back on her feet, and I wanted to keep her and help, but he wouldn't let that happen. But
Hmm.
she hated me. She turned everything around, and I became the bad guy. She never spoke to me again. She doesn't like me. And they still family, and he goes there like nothing happened, like it wasn't his idea, it was mine. And this was a long time ago, so I didn't get to see my nieces and nephews regularly, her little kids, because she had more kids after that. She got back together with the husband, and they had, I think, one or two more, and then they got separated at the end. But I didn't get to see them grow up because I became the enemy,
The enemy.
and I made that excuse for him. And so from that moment on, I said, no, that's it. Because I would get like the dirty eye. And then her siblings, my other nieces and nephews, started looking at me the same way. So I lost the whole side of the family because of him. But I couldn't find it in my heart to tell them it wasn't me. They probably wouldn't believe me anyway. And he didn't have the cojones to go tell her, get out. He made
Mm-hmm.
me do the dirty job. And I was like, that's it. Never again. Never again. And
Well,
that's when I said, from then on, I started calling out, nope, you did this, you do that. No, that's your family. You deal with them, not me. I deal with my own family.
yeah. You know what I would have done? I would have called him in the room, and I say, "Tell her what you want to say."
No, that's now. I'll do that now. No, you did it
No,
like,
no,
but
I
back
know. I
then,
said,
no, no. But remember, we're talking about how we have made excuses about this, about that. And again, there was a lot of times that I would do that for him, and I was like, no, what am I doing? But it took for me to start working on myself, Marnie, and start building the backbone, right? And say, hey, you know what? No, we have to bring up and say, I'm not going to do that for you anymore, or stop behaving that way. You make people feel bad. And if you're going to behave like that, then I'm not going to invite them over.
"No,
That's it.
yeah, that's and I'm glad that you brought that up because a lot of times we will try to kind of downplay your spouse, significant others flaws, like when they'll say, oh, they're always oh no, they're just tired, oh no, they're going through something, oh no, it's this, and everyone's like, they're always going through something. And
Mm,
you know that it's the truth, but I don't know what it is, but it's certain people, like in our eyes they can never do wrong, and we make excuses for their poor behavior, and it's not good because you always get, like you said, you always have to take the fall, and everybody always looks at you because you always have to be the enforcer.
mm.
um and it's not even you, it's them, like they don't want to
But
be there or they don't want to do the right thing, and everybody else
that you
doesn't.
don't want them there. Yeah.
Mhm. Yep.
Marlene, I just realized something. As as you go through life and you start learning of behaviors or the do's and don'ts in couples, if you think about it, now that I go back in my head to everything that has happened over the past, because we were together for so long, almost together almost 20 something years, and we've been together overall like 30 plus years, right? But we've been separated for a few years. But anyway, going back to that behavior, to everything that went on, and listening to some psychologists, and learning about narcissistic behavior, learning about spousal abuse and stuff like that. um, you start realizing that that is a form of
Hmm.
you know you know
Abuse.
DV. That's a
Hmm.
form of DV, because they want to keep you at a certain level. They don't want you to socialize, and that's why they behave that way. They want you just for them and the
It's
family.
mind
And
control. It's mind and
it's a
body
form
control.
of DV, and I didn't get it. I didn't put it put two and two together. But like I said, as you get older, you start realizing all the sacrifices, because it does take a lot from you, and a lot of sacrifices to do the things that you do, and to get to where you're at. And you think about it, there was a lot of DV in my relationship, without being physical, without leaving bruises, without pushes or anything like that. There was a lot more. It was deeper in a weird way.
The Listen, Miss Nexy, I have to say this. Being my previous relationship, with my ex, that was the issue that I had all the time. It was a lot of, not really like yelling and screaming, but it was that I was ignored a lot, and that,
Mm-hmm.
for me, that's a form of abuse. That it's like you're there and they do whatever they want, like days upon end, that they don't talk to you, like acting very immature, and everybody's like, what's wrong with them? And you, oh,
Mm-hmm.
they're tired. No, they just were immature, and didn't have good behavior, and we would always excuse it, and if you don't call it out, they will never change.
Mm-hmm. And again, it's something that it just hit. it progresses, right? The more you grow, the more you read, the more you listen to good, great content creators here now on YouTube, and people that do their research, that talk about their experiences, and how they have bettered themselves through therapy or whatever. Once you hone into people like that in this sector, you start to understand that what you went through was a form of DV. You didn't
Mm-hmm.
see it that way because you were so accustomed to that behavior, and
Yep.
you making the excuses, and you have seen loved ones make the same excuses for their partners, right? Male or
Mm-hmm.
female, because it's not just males that are like this. I have a cousin who was with someone that was horrific, okay, and that
Mm-hmm.
is a form, but you see them going through the same thing and making excuses and still working in the relationship, that you do the same thing. You
Mm-hmm.
start thinking like, oh, it's okay, I mean, so and so does it, right? Oh, that's her husband, or his wife is just the same way as mine, so it's okay. But it's not that behavior, that controlling issue, wanting to know where you're at, where you're going, who you're going with, those things are real. It The funny thing is that in the beginning, oh no, it was more like, where are you going? Oh, to the store, blah blah. Okay, how long are you going to be gone? I don't know, but probably an hour. Just and I was thinking maybe it's because the kids are here, whatever. And then I started realizing, wait a minute, my daddy's back home. He's not my dad.
Mm-hmm. No.
So where are you going? I'll be like, see you when I do, man. Bye.
Yeah. See when
I
I
started
see you.
teaching him. Yeah, started teaching him not to be checking up, keeping me in check because I didn't do that. I'm going to work. Okay, have a nice day. See you later. I'm gonna be gone the whole weekend for something. Okay, be careful. Let me know, that you're okay, and that's all I need to know, that you're doing okay. A text, I'm okay. A phone call, I'm doing good. Bye. If you have
Yeah,
to,
yeah, like every night, like, how did the day go? Okay, blah blah
yeah.
blah. Oh
Just
yeah,
make
and
sure that you tell me you're okay, because it's a 3 or 4 day, or it's a couple of weeks that you're gonna be gone for work or whatever it is. Just let me know every other day that you're okay. That's it. You don't have to tell me your every little single move. You just have to let me know that you're okay, because I'll be worried about it. You know, you're my significant other, so I'm gonna be worried about it. So that's all you have to do. So I started training him that way. That, hey, no, no, no. Of course, if I go away, I'm gonna inform you. I'm okay. We're doing good, so don't worry about it. And that's it.
mhm,
And so I had to do that. But that when we were at home, and people will visit, or even if it was his own family members, he didn't really like them to visit. I was the one that always wanted them around. He didn't.
mm,
Oh, they're here again? They're your nieces and nephews. Like, what do you mean they're here again? Of course. But because
yeah,
my nieces and nephews are all back home. So I was giving them the love that I couldn't give my nieces and nephews back home. But it was
right.
always, and I was always making the excuse that, no, you can't come this weekend because we're not going to be home. Even though we were home, I couldn't bring my nieces and nephews to come enjoy the pool and enjoy our company because he didn't want them there.
Yep. And
It's
as another
so
thing,
weird.
making excuses for their poor behavior. It's like you want
Yes,
closeness, but they don't, and then they blame you like, oh, it's his wife that, I've been
of
in
course.
that boat, like, oh, because he's changed so much because now he's with her. I was like, please, he's been this way before me.
Exactly, and you cannot control that. And in a weird way, Marlene, I'm thinking, you know what, now that we have split it up, we're still good friends. We have children, together, that, and we stay, we co-parent beautifully because we're good friends. We have to, because we have children in common, so we have to stay good friends. We have a great relationship. But I'm glad at this point that maybe that they think that it was me and not him, because he can continue to have that relationship with his family, and he doesn't feel as lonely as he does. See, I have my kids all the time. He doesn't. because our children are adults. Only the little one goes with him all the time, but the other ones, they go to him whenever, once or twice a year. But I'm glad that he has that side of the family intact because he can continue that relationship and not feel so lonely, even though they blame me. So I'm okay with it. I'm like, you know what? Never mind. It's okay.
Yeah.
Continue thinking
Yeah.
that it was me. Who cares?
Yeah, it's one of those things that it is what it is. And, I got tired of being in the position to be the one to always be blamed for it, by your in laws or by whoever, people always blaming. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to say, oh, tell them I'm not coming because I'm tired. No, you tell them. I'm not telling them anything. So that
Mm-hmm.
caused the behavior to change because if it's always coming from you, it makes it seem like you're the one that causing them to do whatever it is. So, you have to remove yourself from, don't make the excuses, don't speak for them, let them speak for themselves. They're an adult and they need to be mature enough to hold their own. And if we keep making excuses for their poor behavior, it will never change. It will only get worse and it's going to bring in so much drama.
Yeah, and because you're the outsider, right? So you're the
Hmm.
one doing this. You're the outsider. He's family. So, so it's always your fault. And again, it's things like that um my family is, Spanish speaking, right? And we're
Yes.
sitting in the dinner table, with the grandparents, and we're talking in Spanish, and he will get very upset and he will start speaking in English. And I was like, what are you doing? Well, I don't have to speak the language if I don't want to. We speak English all the time. So why do you have to? I go, because we have two grandmothers here that don't speak the language. Have some respect. Well, I'm not going to change. And he will continue to do it like that with the kids. And I will look at my children like, no. And they will start speaking Spanish. Like, I'm sorry, Dad, you're overwritten right now. And so
Mhm.
it was disrespectful. And I will say, he's more comfortable with that. I'm so sorry, right? Even though that he
Mhm.
just did it because he didn't want to socialize with them in the same table. And
Yep.
it's like, dude, like, this is your family too. It's not just mine. It's your family. And so the things like that were the ones that I had to constantly be asking for. I'm so sorry. He's having a bad day. Or um, if somebody came uninvited, right, out of the blues, I'll be like, oh, come in, Um, he will open, if he was the one opening the door, whether it was his family or mine, he will be over there by the door, just holding the door, like, what's up? What are you doing here? What do you want? Oh, no, no, we can't, blah, blah. I would go and open the door. Come on in, sit down. You don't want something to drink? I'm like, what are you doing? This is family. You
Yep.
know what I mean? Like, so, and I will say, I'm so sorry. He was working in the backyard and he's probably all winded, so he didn't realize that he was supposed to do that. But come in, come in. And he'll be like, okay, I'm going back outside. And I'm like, but they're probably here to see you. But those
Yeah.
excuses I had to, I stopped making those excuses and allowed certain people to see them for who he was. Get to know
Mhm.
him for who he was because it wasn't my job anymore to protect. I was
Yep.
done.
And that's the thing, that if we don't do, call them out and show them for what they are and who they are, sometimes the change doesn't come from us. I know for myself that the change didn't come for my ex until long after I was gone. And then
Mm-hmm.
they were able to see, like, yeah, they've been telling me a long time that I needed to change that behavior. But sometimes when people don't truly appreciate that you're helping them and they think that you don't like them or you're trying to be mean or whatever, but you're trying to help somebody to experience personal growth. And unfortunately, some people don't understand that you're trying to help them to grow. They think that you don't like them, or you hate them, or you're trying to be mean, or whatever. But later on, you do understand. And I can say, even for myself, that I know that when my parents were doing certain things, and certain friends and even people, that the relationship broke up with certain friends and certain people, because I was not in the space of maturity. And they
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't put up with it, because it's only so much times you can tell people, I don't like what you're doing. And if you continue, of course, if you are a healthy person and not toxic, you will not continue to allow that behavior. You're going to have to cut them off.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's exactly what happens when, when you have been with someone for a long time, and all this, even though I have worked through it, through therapy and everything, and I'm in a good place, but because I'm in a good place, I have boundaries. I know that if I engage, you know it's gonna irritate me, because he hasn't worked on himself, so he's still always right. So what I do is I have boundaries. you know our son gets picked up right at the driveway. I open the door, he takes his backpack, he goes. The same way, he brings him back. I open the door, son gets out, and he goes away. So, because I know that speaking to one another like that sometimes can create, especially when there's something that, I already saw in the messages that he's working through, and it's not even my problem, but I know that I'm going to get that side of everything. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm like, oh, if I see that, otherwise I'll go and say, oh, thank you very much. I'll talk to you later, or I'll see you, in a couple of weeks or whatever, whenever you pick them up for the weekend. And and that's it. If it's something to do with the family, we try to have a phone call and discuss
Yeah,
what happens or what's happening. But I try to stay off certain topics, and if I see that that is coming my way, I get those boundaries in place. And nope, I'll talk to you in like 3 weeks again. I'll come up and say hi to you in the car until it's died down, because I know he's gonna hold that on there for like weeks at end. So I have those, and if it starts with something, I stop him and say nope. I said I'm placing my boundaries. Sorry, not my family, not my problem. I said okay, I gotta go. Bye, and that's it.
exactly.
And he knows now that if he wants to talk to me about something, productive, something that is to do with the house or the kids, or if he has a little, like, they haven't called me, I can talk to him about that. But if he starts with certain, I can't believe this, I'm like, okay, I'll let you know what I think about it over text. Be careful, okay? Drive safe, and just let me know you arrive home safe, okay? And only
Exactly.
because I don't want to call the life insurance and then it's not true. No, no, that's not. No, no. Retract that. Retract that. No, and so you have to, as you move forward, you have to. Therapy is an amazing thing. A lot of people think of therapy just the one way, where you sit on a couch with someone and talk. There's all kinds of therapies. You have to look up and see what works for you. But therapy for me, Marine, has brought me to who I am today. A very
Exactly.
happy, content, very happy, very um, proud woman, mama, and everything else. I like who I am. I like the life that I have now. And the fact that I don't put up with those behaviors, and I don't make excuses for them anymore, because I don't have to. I worked
Hmm.
on myself enough to know that that's not my problem. That's a you problem.
Exactly. Exactly. And I want to highlight this comment from Boss Life Online. She says, people give you a hard time, and later on, in life, you will see them and they are a changed person. I'd be like, why not with me? But people are only in your life for a season. And I can answer that, Gio, because I remember when I had people who were my quote unquote friends, and I just didn't feel like I deserved them. I didn't know myself. I wasn't in a space of maturity. I didn't know how to be accountable for my actions. I was just so used to doing whatever I wanted with zero consequences. And when I found out that people aren't going to take it, if you know what you're doing and you continue to do it, if somebody says when you do that, that irritates me and they continue, of course people aren't going to stick around. So I know for myself, I wasn't in this space because I was in very selfish season of my life. I only cared about myself. So after, sometimes it does take people leaving your life, and it's not that that goes away, because even though they weren't in my life anymore, it still hit me like I hurt them. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, I didn't care because I was not in that season of maturity. But then when I got there, I was like, man, why did I do that to them? Like later on, you have the regret and you have matured, because I can say that, because I have come into a space of maturity now that I can own. I can own all of my past, all my immaturity, all the things that I did before I knew about doing the right thing and respecting other people and boundaries. So
Until you knew who you were.
until you know who you are, you're going to treat people any way that you feel, because we operate on where we vibrate. And
Yes.
if yeah, because if you are operating in a very low vibrational space and you don't think much about yourself and you don't care and it's all about you, then that's how you're going to treat everybody who comes in your life. But if you're at a space to where you love yourself and you respect yourself, you're going to give that to others. So that's my response. I can only speak for myself. I don't know how Miss Nexy or the rest of the loved ones feel.
Well, I'm perfect, so I cannot really relate. I don't understand anything you just said. I was just going along with you. The perfect person that I am cannot relate at all, at all. No, again, we all have that side of us, right? That we have made mistakes,
Hmm.
by either not being present when people need you, by only being the toxic person that you were back then before working on yourself, not taking accountability for all the mishaps, all the mistakes you make with that friendship. But I feel that for me, um, the friends that I lost because of my lack of maturity, or um, my lack of accountability, I can call them, seasonal friends. My best friends and lifetime friends that I have seen me through the worst and the best in me,
Hmm.
and are still here in my life. And we've been friends, like I've said before, for many, 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 many years. With my family, I have apologized if I ever had taken them for granted and I didn't really, gave them my a full attention when they needed me. I have done that. I'm not someone that is disrespectful or steps over people. I'm not like that. But sometimes I can be that person that ignores, even if it's not something that I do consciously. It's just that sometimes the topic is not for me, so I block it. And then when people ask, "So what do you think?" I'm like, "What do you think about?" Well, yeah, you're right. I'm right. Well, I sometimes, and people get upset because I do that. I used to do that a lot. And so I apologize to people, or when they have needed me, and maybe I could have had that 1 hour that I could have been effective to them, instead of saying, if I go there, it's going to be like 6 hours that I'm going to have to deal with this person. I had apologized for all of that. And those who took the apology to heart and say, you know what, we know that, da, 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 they are still with me, you know. So I know that we all make mistakes and we all go through certain things because we don't know who we are. We're so hurt. We're so wounded. We're so depleted, We're so dark inside that we don't see light in anything. So the only behavior we have is dark.
Yes.
And so we once we come out to the light, like I said, when we start working on ourselves and we see the mistakes that we have made, even to those people, Marlene, by the way, that are no longer in my life, I have apologized to them. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry I wasn't a better friend. Not that I want to keep him in my life, because I don't think, we can do that, right? Because, but I did
Mm-hmm.
apologize to them. I have apologized to them. It's a thing that you have to do for you and for them.
Mm-hmm. So that you won't keep beating yourself up about it, and then you
Yeah,
apologize,
and so that they can move
and then you
on and
learn the
say,
lesson. Yeah.
you know what, I did the right thing. It's not that I didn't. I They don't have any regrets. That's my whole point. Is that I didn't want them to have any regrets.
Mm-hmm. So some relationships, is like you said, it's seasonal, but true friendships, true people, you like my mom used to always say, you give people room to grow. And even though that they're, you may not
Hmm.
be like have them real close to you, you may have them at arm's length, but when they get to that level where they're growing up, then they start to get closer and closer to you. And I'm grateful that I've had people in my life that have kept me at arm's length. Like, yeah, you are really aggravating. You're really annoying and immature. And I received that because it was true. But I'm grateful that I've had people in my life that, called me out and they didn't take my mess. Because if they did, would I be the woman that I am today? Probably not.
Nope. Nope.
Probably.
You wouldn't, because you would have never seek the therapy, for your mental health that you needed it. Because you would
Mhm.
have never been able to see that you were doing something wrong. And again, I've always said here with you too as well, that I don't give people second chances. And maybe people will take it the wrong way, that, a wrong answer, or, a bad day that that person is having, and that's it. No, I mean, when you burn me, when you do something mean, I don't. I don't give people second chances, because you have already shown me your true colors. That's it. I'm done with you. But if it's a friendship and you have those days like, oh my God, get out of my house. I don't want to see you today.
Mhm. Exactly.
I don't.
There's always people like that in our life that, you have to take breaks from certain individuals, especially the ones that are very toxic to our personal growth. And while you can love them and maybe they don't mean to do it, and I don't mean the ones that are putting their hands on you, physically harming you, taking away from you, financially using you. I don't mean those people. I mean people that just are immature and need to grow up. I'm talking about those individuals that you just have to love them from arm's length. I love you, but I can't deal with you because you're stopping me from being my best. So, you know, great topic.
Exactly. Because sometimes, like Mama used to say, when they put you underwater for like 10 minutes
Just like 3 minutes. My mom used to say,
and see
I just
those
want a little bit of
bubbles
bubble.
rise and then see them gone. No, I want a lot of bubbles, and then I want to see them disappear. That's how you get me, so I cannot have you in my life right now.
Miss Nexy.
We have, and we are that people sometimes, Marlene. We got to admit it. We are that person sometimes. When we are at our worst behavior, and sometimes when I get called out, like, I don't do that anymore, because, again, I've worked on myself, and I'm always trying to, because I feel everybody's pain, everybody's discomfort. I feel it, and I'm like, oh my God, no, I don't want to do that, because I'm gonna make them feel like, when I saw them the other day or whatever. So I don't do that anymore. But before, I was that person, and even my siblings will be, oh no, no, I'm not dealing with you today.
Exactly.
Or I will answer in just a few words out of my mouth. My sisters will be like, you know what? We'll call you in a couple of days. What? I'm answering. We'll call you in a couple of days. Bye.
Yeah. I
because
think
they
that that's
already knew that my mood wasn't in the right place. So instead of arguing with me, instead of arguing and going on and on and on, they will say, I'll call you in a couple of days when you feel better.
yeah.
I'm like, feel better? I feel good. What do you mean? But just the tone of my voice, right, will give them that.
Yeah. I think that's the best thing that we can ever do. And this has been a great topic, always making excuses for their behavior. And what I want to say in my final words is that, we can't change how other people act, but we can always work on our reaction. And don't put up with foolishness, and don't be used and a doormat to others' negativity. And yeah, call them out. Leave people alone that are stopping you from your personal growth. Sometimes we have to move on. Final words, Miss Nexy?
uh, Say pretty much, what she said. No, the same thing is, you have to guard yourself, your well-being. You have to guard your center. If you're someone that is, positive, someone that is always trying to better, you know yourself, being around people that are not being accountable for their behavior, that are continuously doing things like that, don't stop making excuses. Stay away from them until they mature, they grow up, and they can see you for who you are.
Exactly.
Life is only lived once, and this is the only one we have so far. So we have to try to make it the best possible. And some people are too toxic for us to be able to make it there. That's pretty much it. Just keep yourself and your mind and your body healthy. Surround yourself by
Exactly.
good people that can elevate you, that can make you feel better than you did in the morning. Those are the people you want to have around, because life is hard as it is. Living is hard. So having toxic people makes your living a living HELL. You don't want that.
Hmm. Yep.
That's it. That's pretty
I
much it, Miss Marlene.
Thank you so much, Miss Nexy. Great podcast. I really enjoyed it. And thank you, everybody who left their feedback in the comments. And anybody who's watching in the replay, leave me your feedback in the comment section below. Thank you, Miss Nexy.
Thank you for having me, Miss Marlene. And I'm sorry I was having this issue with with getting in, but thank you for having me. Amazing topic as always. And thank you, people in chat, for coming over and listening to us and supporting us and supporting Miss Marlene. Thank you again. And I'll see you all.
Thank
Oh, there you go, Marlene. That's your
you.
that's your that's your cue.
I'll see you. I'll see you all on Saturday. Miss Nexy, we're doing a Saturday sip and chat. We forgot to tell
Yes,
them.
we're doing something Saturday. A blah 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 of
Thursday.
something.
A blah 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 something. You got to tune
Of
in to find out.
something. Of something.
Yep, of
Yeah,
something.
exactly. We'll see you all Saturday.
Okay, guys. Bye bye.
Bye.